Yo, if I had 100 sheep and one of them got away, I would leave the 99 and go find that one. That's right. Look from the locks and jaws of Satan, I come creating, penetrating with force from the land of the lost. I'm coming like Muhammad got the devil on the run. Rising like the sun, keep your eyes on the one. Look on base, let it bring forth a reborn nation. Up against the norm, creating a new formation. This foundation that I be standing on is firm. Look, y'all, we must learn. Oh, as a people, we gon' burn in the fire. Let's join hands with the Messiah. The Lamb be Elijah. For real, I ain't no liar. My deepest desire be to resurrect the carcass. Breathe like venom, then squeeze out all the venom with momentum and skill. We'll kill Satan at will. You and I be connected, protected by Ezekiel's will. For real, I can sense a mental explosion. On the move as God's chosen, proceeding in motion, we become, yes, indeed, the parts of forming. Running about of her, cause Babylon is falling. Living all in the midst of devilish anguish. His aim is to kill us all with this language. He's the mischief maker, plus he's wicked by nature, the modern mind shaper. So hey, will Jacob wake up the lion? He's in Judah, sleep. I wonder who will wake him, bring him to his feet. Speak now, or forever hold your peace. The violence of this beast must cease. Look out, I see a lion. Where he's in Judah, sleep. I wonder who will wake him, bring him to his feet. Speak now, or forever hold your peace. The violence of this beast must cease. Now look, for 4 days, he's been sleeping in the tomb. Fed like the zoom, no light, it's like the moon. His blood is be maroon, plus it covers the earth. Crucified daily, and waiting this new birth. For real, the truth hurts the wicked evildoer. He knows that the future will bring a new ruler. So look, don't let him fool you with his maneuvers and wisdom. Seeking, you'll find that he uses symbolism with this rhythm. Black will represent the hesitant brains. Hit the water down the flames and sort out the remains. Everything must change, nothing stays the same. Our struggle's been ordained, so just chill, maintain. I know it's strange, but look, one came to raise us up. Farad has arrived, beware, don't self-destruct, keep the focus. The red dragon's coming with the locusts. Some don't notice, so they engage in shit that's bogus. But look like Moses, I'ma free you from your bondage, from those who oppress us, wicked, evil, demonics. I promise that I'ma flaunt this everywhere I go. My people gotta know, so I can't hold it in no more. For real, the pressure's on and that be the fact. We gotta resurrect quick if we expect to be hereafter. Look, I can see disaster, it's all in our midst. It's the shock of the hour, man, the clock be stuck on 6. I wonder, who can fix this problem from Zion? I'm in the wilderness trying to wake a dead lion. There's a lion where he's in Judah asleep. I wonder who will wake him, bring him to his feet. Speak now, or forever hold your peace. The balance of this beast must cease. Look out, I see a lion where he's in Judah asleep. I wonder who will wake him, bring him to his feet. Speak now, or forever hold your peace. The balance of this beast must cease. Now peep these bones as they lie, still dry in the valley. Buried under rubbish, darkness covers the body. There's no consciousness, there's no breathing, no pulse. Walking dead in Israel, be that sheep that's lost. Guided by the false image, they don't know what sin is. In their forehead be a mark that reach crooked menace. It's continuous bleeding, therefore repentance is needed. Wickedness can be defeated when we submit, it's deleted. This beast be heated, he knows the fire's kindling. The curtains in that land of Midian be trembling. I see a similar large number, many men coming from out the grave to never go back in again. Lazarus, come forth, remove that napkin, take it off. The force be with you, so lion, let him hear your voice. I can hear the roars coming from daily tribal wars. Flesh wounds and scars be like all over the stars in the river of blood. We be swimming in sin. I see the lesbian and the million feminine men. These days be numbered, the end is right in sight. Behold, he comes quick like a thief in the night. At the head of 10,000, he be moving to fight. Burning holes at his feet, look, observe the plight. In the bottomless pit, they be falling, still dying. Who can save the lion and bring him home to Zion? There's a lion where he's in Judah asleep. I wonder who will wake him, bring him to his feet. Speak now, or forever hold your peace. The balance of this beast must cease. Look out, I see a lion where he's in Judah asleep. I wonder who will wake him, bring him to his feet. Speak now, or forever hold your peace. The balance of this beast must cease. There's a lion where he's in Judah asleep. I wonder who will wake him, bring him to his feet. Speak now, or forever hold your peace. The violence of this beast must cease. There's a lion where I wonder who will wake him. Get up, lion. Did you think we was gonna stay down forever? A new day. 1909 Shepherd. Beware, Mama wake him. For 443 goddamn damnable years. The clock is just delayed, strict. I see eagles gathered everywhere.
President Trump called the families of 4 U.S. soldiers killed in action earlier this month, including Sergeant LaDavid Johnson. Johnson's wife took the call while on the way to the airport to receive her husband's body. Congresswoman Frederica Wilson says she was in the car with Johnson's widow when she got the call.
He said to the wife, well, I guess he knew what he was getting into. How insensitive can you be?
The president refuted the claim on Twitter this morning, saying Representative Wilson totally fabricated what I said to the wife of a soldier who died in action, and I have proof.
I have proof, too. This man is a sick man. He's cold-hearted, and he feels no pity or sympathy for anyone. And when she actually hung up the phone, she looked at me and said, he didn't even know his name.
President Trump doubled down Tuesday on his claim that previous administrations did not call Gold Star families after their loved ones were killed in action, and he pointed to his own chief of staff as evidence.
I mean, you could ask General Kelly, did he get a call from Obama? You could ask other people. I don't know what Obama's policy was.
White House records show that General Kelly and his wife did meet privately with Mr. and Mrs. Obama at a breakfast to honor Gold Star families a year after their son's passing. General Kelly declined to comment and has made it clear in the past that he does not want his son's death exploited. On Memorial Day, General Kelly and President Trump visited his son's grave at Arlington National Cemetery. Mola Lenghi, CBS News, the White House.
Watch, Congresswoman Wilson laughs over the Gold Star widow controversy. I'm a rock star now. After White House Chief of Staff General John Kelly gave a deeply personal and emotionally charged statement against the politicization of fallen soldiers and their grieving families, Florida Democratic Congresswoman Frederica Wilson laughed to reporters about her role in stirring up the controversy over President Trump's painful call to a Gold Star widow. You mean to tell me that I have become so important that the White House is following me and my words? Rep. Wilson laughingly told Miami 7 News on Thursday, "That's amazing. This is amazing. That is absolutely phenomenal. I'll have to tell my kids that I'm a rock star now." What Wilson is so flippantly laughing off is a controversy she helped stir up when she accused President Trump of handling a call to the Gold Star widow of fallen Soldier Army Sergeant LaDavid Johnson in a supposedly callous manner. Along with the widow Myshia Johnson, Wilson, who says she was on the speakerphone when Trump called, accused Trump of saying callously that Sergeant Johnson knew what he was getting into. In a briefing on Thursday, Jen. Kelly condemned the politicization of grieving Gold Star families and said he was stunned and brokenhearted at what I saw a member of Congress doing. He also described what went on behind the scenes leading up to the call, and explained how difficult those calls are to make. Kelly said he advised Trump to say he was doing exactly what he wanted to do when he was killed. He knew what he was getting into by joining that 1%. He knew what the possibilities were because we were at war. And when he died he was surrounded by the best men on this earth, his friends. That's what the president tried to say to the 4 families the other day, said Kelly, who lost his own son in combat during Barack Obama's presidency. Rep. Wilson responded by cynically accusing Kelly of simply trying to keep his job. John Kelly's trying to keep his job, said Wilson. He will say anything. There were other people who heard what I heard. After clearly enjoying her time in the limelight over the controversy on Thursday, the Congresswoman issued a statement saying she would no longer comment publicly on Trump's call to Johnson. The Congresswoman will not be making any further comment on the issue, because the focus should be on helping a grieving widow and family heal, not on her or Donald Trump, Wilson's spokesperson told the media Thursday. Video link of Kelly's remarks below in the description. Thank you for watching. Watch
Didn't say what that Congresswoman said. Didn't say it at all. She knows it, and she now is not saying it. I did not say what she said, and I'd like her to make the statement again, because I did not say what she said. I had a very nice conversation with the woman, with the wife, who sounded like a lovely woman. Did not say what the Congresswoman said, and most people aren't too surprised to hear that.
What's the proof, Mr. President?
Let her make her statement again, and then you'll find out. Okay, let her make her statement again, and then you'll find out.
Mr. President, thank you.
Where you go?
Much, Sarah, and out front now, Mark Caputo, a reporter for Politico, who also spent the day with Congresswoman Wilson, Nia Malika Henderson, our senior political reporter, and Chris Cillizza, editor-at-large for CNN Politics. Mark, you were there. You were with her throughout the day, and you were with Congresswoman Wilson when she learned what General Kelly said about her. You know, in part, the empty barrel comments, of course, and also calling her selfish. What was her reaction?
Well, I handed her the phone, my iPhone with our story on it, as she was getting into a car to leave an event. And she looked at it really quickly, and she said, well, he'll just say that to save his job. He'll say anything. And then Wilson reiterated that she had other witnesses on the call, and that it wasn't just her. But as you pointed out, her account of what Trump said is very similar to what John Kelly said Trump said. The real difference here seems to be kind of in context. The outlier appears to be President Trump, who had called Wilson's version of what he said fabricated, but yet, again, Kelly kind of echoed what Wilson said Trump told the widow.
That's absolutely true. And Nia, look, I mean, these attacks on the Congresswoman were deeply personal, right? I mean, let's just play again, you know, Kelly telling that story of the opening of the FBI office back in 2015, the dedication of that new FBI field office in Miami. Here's what he said.
The Congresswoman stood up, and in the long tradition of empty barrels making the most noise, stood up there and all of that, and talked about how she was instrumental in getting the funding for that building, and how she took care of her constituents because she got the money, and she just called up President Obama, and on that phone call, he gave the money, the $20 million to build the building. And she sat down, and we were stunned that she'd done it. Even for someone that is that empty a barrel, we were stunned.
Even for someone who is that empty a barrel. I mean, Nia, that is nasty. Was this General Kelly going out on his own, or did the president send him out to do this?
You know, well, General Kelly today used the word stunning, stunned, all sorts of variations of that word today. I thought it was stunning the way he went after the congresswoman. And you asked if that was Trump sort of putting him up to it, or was that him? He seemed to really be speaking personally about her and had this story from 2015 and spoke with her with a level of disdain that was quite surprising, calling her an empty barrel twice, referring to her as this woman, never saying her name, never really acknowledging acknowledging that she actually had a role in Sergeant Johnson's life, right? I mean, he talked about, for instance, how Sergeant Johnson was selfless and sort of one of the best of us. Well, guess what? Representative Wilson had a role in that. She was a principal. She was a teacher. She's been in that community for decades and decades. And it's also, I'm not sure why General Kelly couldn't understand that maybe the family wanted her there because she was a friend, of course, but also because she's a government official, and she'd gone through this before with other people, other young men who'd fallen and who were part of her mentoring program. Maybe they wanted her there because she had been familiar with this situation before. So I thought it was really a kind of a low point for him. He, in the one hand, is sort of kind of lamenting the erosion of civility, a time when he said that women were treated like they were sacred, and there he is really dismissing Representative Wilson like she was nothing.
I mean, that's the thing, Chris, that I find so surprising about this, right? I mean, he's criticizing her for listening in. He was listening in because the President of the United States wanted him in the room. Well, she was listening in because the family had her there and put it on speakerphone. Doesn't that give her the equal right to be listening in that he had?
Right, and she's a member of Congress who represents constituents, right? I mean, that's part and parcel of the job. Look, I think what you have to do, Aaron, Nia touched on this. I think what you have to do is you have to separate out the sort of first half of what John Kelly said and the second half of what he said. The first half, extremely moving stuff.
Yes.
It details that most of us don't know about how bodies of fallen soldiers are moved, how they are brought home, how those calls work, talking personally about the loss of his own son, and John Dunford reaching out to him, former Marine Corps Commandant, and, as he said, his closest friend, and giving him the advice that he then passes on to Trump, that Trump tries to communicate down the line. So that's part one. But part two is a lot of the stuff Nia touched on, and you guys have touched on as it relates to Congresswoman Wilson. And also, I just thought the whole thing about the things that used to be sacred, you have to remember who your boss is. Donald Trump went after the Khan family after the Democratic National Convention. Now, that speech was critical of him, but responded to a Gold Star family who lost their son in Iraq in 2004. Donald Trump said that he liked his heroes not captured about John McCain, the man who had been the nominee of his party. And Donald Trump has made a lot of comments about the sacred women.
Okay, so can I just play? I want to play that soundbite.
Yeah.
Because there is something about that, okay? Whether you support President Trump or you don't support him. Many of the things that he has done and said, done to women and said about women are disgusting, at the least. Here's what General Kelly said about things that are sacred.
You know, when I was a kid growing up, a lot of things were sacred in our country. Women were sacred and looked upon with great honor. That's obviously not the case anymore, as we see from recent cases. Life, the dignity of life, was sacred. That's gone. Religion, that seems to be gone as well. Gold Star families, I think that left in the convention over the summer.
Obviously exonerating his own boss on the Gold Star families issue, but Mark, women were sacred, looked upon with great honor. That's obviously not the case anymore, as we see from recent cases. He worked for President Trump.
Well, it sounds like he's talking about I guess or maybe he's talking about Harvey Weinstein.
I'm sure that's who that's who he's talking about. But I mean, is he truly oblivious to his boss?
I mean, if you're asking me to get inside the mind of a Trump White House official, I'm vastly underqualified. You might need a clairvoyant or a mind reader to do that. I mean, what I can say, bringing it back to Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, is she's an icon in the African-American community in Miami-Dade County. Yeah. And in that role, she is widely known and well-known and really beloved. And she has earned that reputation by having this 5,000 Role Models of Excellence program, which Sergeant Johnson had graduated from in 2010. Whenever she goes to events, she has a number of young black men who grow up poor, who are disadvantaged, who are at risk, who love her. And they go on to be professionals, they go on to be firemen, they go on to be firefighters, police officers, soldiers, and they always remember her and they revere her. And so I think it would probably help General Kelly to know a little more about Frederica Wilson and understand that when they talk about revering women, well, she is revered in the African-American community here, and incidentally, they hate Trump. Her constituents despise Trump.
Yeah,
and
you were
I have a lot of people saying that, you know, she's going to get voted out of office. If anything, this will certainly increase her popularity in her district.
Nia, you were nodding there as Mark was talking, of course, on this issue of women being sacred.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, he trashed Representative Wilson in that speech from the White House. And here is a person who is a public servant in her own way and a patriot in her own way, and has been selfless in her own way in terms of serving her constituents there. So I just thought it was such an odd thing that he did that, and unfortunate. And I think Mark, brings in the racial component of it as well. I think you can't dismiss that. Here is a White House who has been plagued by this idea that they are racially divisive, and here you have them trashing this African-American woman who has done great things for her community, great things for African-American men in particular, something that conservatives, you would think, I mean, she's got this 5,000 Role Models program, you would think that conservatives would embrace that, the kinds of things that she's trying to do in that community, and here she is just, trashed from the White House. I thought it was a real unfortunate note for General Kelly.
Right.
And unnecessary, really. It was unnecessary.
A speech that had a lot of emotional and meaningful moments, I think everyone could acknowledge, from a man who is a hero by all accounts. To slam her and seemingly not even know the facts of her relationship with the family certainly hit a bad tone. Thank you.
And by the way,
go ahead, Chris.
Just very, very quickly. So remember who brought John Kelly's son's death into the sort of political conversation. One Frederica Wilson,
right,
who was Donald Trump, who said, ask General Kelly about his son, because he wanted to make the point that he did more for fallen soldiers than past presidents. And let's not forget, I mean, I know 3 days ago feels like a millennium ago, but that's how we got to this point of John Kelly coming out and talking about the loss of his son.
Right. Very well said. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And next, General Kelly, talking about his son's death today. His feelings always kept private. Now, thanks to the president, forced fully into the open.
He's the finest man I ever knew.
Why?
Just is.
Plus, John McCain threatened subpoenas on the Niger ambush. Why are there still so many questions tonight? And President Bush speaking out today, attacking Trump by spelling out what America means to him.
It means that bigotry or white supremacy in any form is blasphemy against the American creed.
He knew what he was getting himself into because he enlisted. There's no reason to enlist. He enlisted. And he was where he wanted to be, exactly where he wanted to be, with exactly the people he wanted to be with when his life was taken. That was the message. That was the message that was transmitted. It stuns me that a member of Congress would have listened in on that conversation. Absolutely stuns me. And I thought at least that was sacred. Didn't say what that congresswoman said. Didn't say it at all. She knows it, and she now is not saying it. I did not say what she said, and I'd like her to make the statement again, because I did not say what she said. I had a very nice conversation with the woman, with the wife, who sounded like a lovely woman. Did not say what the congresswoman said, and most people aren't too surprised to hear that.
And everyone knows when you go to war, you could possibly not come back alive. But you don't remind a grieving widow of that. It's so insensitive. So insensitive. He should not have said that.
A young man, young woman going out and giving his or her life for our country. Let's try to somehow keep that sacred. But it eroded a great deal yesterday by the selfish behavior of a member of Congress.
President Trump is facing sharp criticism tonight from an unusual source, one of his predecessors, and maybe not the one you'd expect. WBZ political analyst John Keller is here with the details on this. John?
Well, Liam, it's not an unwritten rule that's never violated, but there has been an understanding among former presidents, by their own account, that they will let others take the lead in criticizing the current president, whoever that might be. But 9 months into the Trump presidency, former President George W. Bush has apparently decided he can stay silent no longer.
We need to recall and recover our own identity.
The former president never mentioned the current one by name, but Bush's target was clear. Both Trump administration policies and the man himself.
You also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Bigotry or white supremacy in any form is blasphemy against the American creed.
And honestly, if the press were not fake, and if it was honest...
Bigotry seems emboldened. Our politics seems more vulnerable to conspiracy theories and outright fabrication.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a off the field right now, out, he's fired.
We've seen our discourse degraded by casual cruelty At times, it can seem like the forces pulling us apart are stronger than the forces binding us together. Argument turns too easily into animosity. Disagreement escalates into dehumanization.
The traditional way, if you look at President Obama and other presidents, most of them didn't make calls. A lot of them didn't make calls.
Did that casual disrespect on a sensitive subject get under Bush's skin and prompt his break with tradition? That's unclear, even if Bush's contempt for Trump's conduct is not.
And our young people need positive role models. Bullying and prejudice in our public life sets a national tone, provides permission for cruelty and bigotry, and compromises the moral education of children.
Ouch. Well, coincidentally, Liam, former President Barack Obama is making his first public campaign appearances just today on behalf of candidates in Virginia and New Jersey. I saw a little bit of it before I came out here, and he, too, is pretty directly critical without naming the president.
As the tradition has gone, so far, President Obama has been pretty quiet about President Trump. He's let him do his thing. Does criticism from a Republican former president politically sting more for Mr. Trump than if it were President Obama?
Well, I don't think any of it matters to the Trump base. I think by and large what former presidents say has some impact, but it's, you know, it's folded into a broader outcry, if you will. I did note that when Hurricane Harvey hit, all the living former presidents, the two Bushes, sure, Carter, Clinton, and Obama, all banded together to raise money. We've seen that in the past, but normally it's with the presence of the current president, not this time.
Very interesting. John Kelly, thank you very much.
I was stunned when I came to work yesterday morning and brokenhearted at what I saw a member of Congress doing. A member of Congress who listened in on a phone call from the President of the United States to a young wife, and in his way tried to express that opinion. He's a brave man, a fallen hero. He knew what he was getting himself into because he enlisted. There's no reason to enlist. He enlisted. And he was where he wanted to be, exactly where he wanted to be, with exactly the people he wanted to be with when his life was taken. That was the message. That was the message that was transmitted. It stuns me that a member of Congress would have listened in on that conversation. Absolutely stuns me. And I thought at least that was sacred. You know, when I was a kid growing up, a lot of things were sacred in our country. Women were sacred and looked upon with great honor. That's obviously not the case anymore, as we see from recent cases. Life, the dignity of life, was sacred. That's gone. Religion, that seems to be gone as well. Gold Star families, I think that left in the convention over the summer. But I just thought the selfless devotion that brings a man or woman to die on the battlefield, I just thought that that might be sacred. And when I listened to this woman and what she was saying and what she was doing on TV, the only thing I could do to collect my thoughts was to go and walk among the finest men and women on this earth. And you can always find them because they're in Arlington National Cemetery. Went over there for an hour and a half, walked among the stones, some of whom I put there because they were doing what I told them to do when they were killed.
Joining us now exclusively is Democratic Congresswoman Frederica Wilson of Florida. Congresswoman, thanks so much for making time for us this morning.
Good morning.
So I want to just, before we get into the specifics of what General Kelly said, I just want to get your thoughts on everything that has transpired over the past 48 hours. This very public fight that you seem to be engaged in with President Trump and General Kelly. President Trump just last night, in case you missed it, at about 11 p.m., tweeted about you. He says the fake news is going crazy with wacky Congresswoman Wilson, a Democrat, who was secretly on a very personal call and gave a total lie on content. What's your response to all of this?
You know, my emphasis today is on my constituents and helping them lay our hero to rest. That's where my head is today. And I'm also concerned about him and his last moments. I want to know why he was separated from the rest of the soldiers. Why did it take 48 hours for them to find him? Was he still alive? Was he kidnapped? What's going on? I thought you were supposed to put your comrade across your shoulder and get on the helicopter with the dead and the wounded. Why did they leave him? I am distraught, and so is the family. There are so many questions that must be answered. And I have written a letter for an investigation. They keep saying to me, oh, we're going to give you a classified briefing. I can hardly wait for that classified briefing because I am concerned about my constituent today, and I am concerned that he is not able to have an open casket funeral, and that is very painful to his family.
Oh, we can only imagine how devastating all of this has been for his family. And you're not alone. Look, Senator John McCain, so many people are calling for an investigation into exactly what happened here so those questions can be answered. But I'm curious, Congresswoman, did you hear General Kelly's remarks in the press briefing room yesterday?
I heard his remarks, and I heard him say that I bragged that I secured the money for the building of the FBI building in Miramar, and that's a lie. You know, I feel sorry for General Kelly. He has my sympathy for the loss of his son, but he can't just go on TV and lie on me. I was not even in Congress in 2009 when the money for the building was secured. So that's a lie. How dare he? However, I named the building at the behest of Director Comey with the help of Speaker Boehner, working across party lines. So he didn't tell the truth, and he needs to stop telling lies on me.
Well, his point was, I think, that, and though you're right, he didn't get the facts right on that, was that empty barrels make the most noise. And he was using that, he was likening that to you. Basically, that you're
I think that's a racist term, too. I'm thinking about that when we looked it up in the dictionary, because I had never heard of an empty barrel. And I don't like to be dragged into something like that. The only thing I want to be dragged into right now is bring back our girls who are the victims of Boko Haram in Nigeria. I have been fighting this fight for almost 4 years. 276 girls were kidnapped from their dormitory in Nigeria by Boko Haram. Boko Haram split, and now one sect is with ISIS. And that multinational task force that was set up by Congress with Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Nigeria, my constituent was there. Sergeant Jackson was there on detail. He was not fighting, he was giving advice, and he was killed and abandoned. And I feel guilty because this is what I do every Wednesday in Congress. Bring back our girls. We wear red. We're concerned about Boko Haram being the most vicious terrorist organization in the world, and we never really hear about Boko Haram. And Boko Haram and ISIS combined, and they killed my son.
You mean LaDavid Johnson, Sergeant Johnson?
LaDavid.
Congresswoman, you know, there are just a
role model son. My role model son.
You were his mentor. I understand how long you go back with his family, and you knew him from childhood. But there are some things that I just want to get straight
and all
about
of his brothers and all of his cousins.
Yes, you're more than obviously their congressman, their representative, and they're more than your constituents. But Congressman, I do want to get a couple of details straight here, because it sounds like there was a real disconnect in terms of what President Trump was trying to say to Sergeant Johnson's wife and what you heard. And so I just want to go to that point, because we now know from General Kelly and his remarks yesterday that the president came to him and said, these calls are hard. What do you think I should say? And General Kelly was able to share what the casualty officer told him and he shared with the president what he thought was an effective message. So let me just play that moment for you of what General Kelly said.
He said, Kel, he was doing exactly what when he was killed. He knew what he was getting into by joining that 1%. He knew what the possibilities were because we're at war. And when he died, in the 4 cases we're talking about, in Aisha, my son's case in Afghanistan, when he died, he was surrounded by the best men on this earth, his friends. That's what the president tried to say to 4 families the other day.
So, Congresswoman, when you hear General Kelly say that the words, he knew what he was getting into, that sounds an awful lot like what you say the president said to Sergeant Johnson's wife. Does hearing General Kelly change how you heard that conversation?
That is not a good message to say to anyone who has lost a child at war. You don't sign up because you think you're going to die. You sign up to serve your country. And when he says he died surrounded by his friends, he was abandoned. That did not apply to him. He was abandoned for 2 days, for 48 hours.
Yeah.
Why? Why didn't they pick him up and put him on their shoulders and, like they did the other fallen comrades?
Yes, I understand.
Put him on a
I mean, General Kelly,
and take him to safety. He could have still been alive. So when you say he died surrounded by his friends,
General Kelly, just to be clear, General Kelly there is talking about his own son. He's talking about the casualty officer that told him that.
We're talking about a specific soldier, and when every soldier is different, and every family is different. And when you have a young mother who is 6 months pregnant with 2 small kids, you say, I am so sorry that you lost your husband. Maisha Johnson, you call her by her name, and you say, your husband. You don't say, your guy. They were married. And you say, I am so sorry. You have our deepest sympathy. If there's anything this nation can do to ease your pain as your president, please let me know. I am so sorry. That's what I would have said. And that's what he needs to practice to say. He doesn't need to talk about what people sign up for. That is unconscionable.
General Kelly also said yesterday that he was absolutely stunned by your reaction, knowing from where he sits what the president intended, that he was stunned that you had misinterpreted it, according to him, and that he was stunned. He said he was also stunned that you would have listened in on that call because to him, those calls are sacred. Can you respond to that?
I wasn't listening in. I was in a car where a call was being taken on a speakerphone. I wasn't listening in. Please don't characterize it as that. And I still go back to what I said from the beginning. Call her by her name, Maisha Johnson. Call him by his name, Sergeant LaDavid Johnson. He is not her guy. He is her husband. And that is the part that hurt her the most.
General Kelly.
That is the part.
Something I think that is important to bring up. General Kelly said that he was so stunned and frankly hurt by your words and your reaction that in order to gather his thoughts, he had to go to Arlington National Cemetery, and he spent an hour and a half walking among the gravestones there of the people that he thinks, have made obviously the biggest sacrifice and are the finest people in our country. And because he was hurt that way, I'm wondering if you have anything you'd like to say to General Kelly today.
To General Kelly, I have lost members of the Role Models Project in war before, during the Iraq War. We know what it is we feel for you, just like we feel for LaDavid's parents and LaDavid's wife. You have my deepest sympathy, but I would never say to you, your son knew what he was signing up for. That would not be a part of my sympathy message to you.
How does this public fight that you're having with the president and now General Kelly, who called you out obviously yesterday, how does this end? Is it time for you all to get on a phone conversation? Is it time for you to speak to the president directly?
It probably could end with the president reaching out to the members of the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence boys and helping me to make them good men in society, instead of trying to degrade their sponsor who's working so hard every day to keep them on the right path, sending them to college, and trying to keep them away from the criminal justice system. If he wants to help us, I sent something to him with the Congressional Black Caucus. It's called the Commission on the Social Status of Black Men and Boys. It would help us if he helped make that a law and establish that commission in the White House. That would help our entire community.
And how about, Congresswoman, from your end? Are you willing to allow today that it's possible that you misinterpreted what the president's intentions were in that phone call to Sergeant Johnson's wife?
There's nothing to misinterpret. He said what he said. I just don't agree with it. I don't agree that that is what you should say to grieving families.
But in terms of his intention not being
callous,
and maybe he got the tone wrong, but that you misinterpreted his intention or his callousness.
Did I miss? I think my intentions are not important in this today. This has to do with the family that's grieving. It's their intentions. They were hurt. This is not a question to ask me, because I can only imagine how she feels. And she was distraught that he kept saying, my guy, your guy. Not your husband, your guy. She said he didn't even know LaDavid's name. So that was the most painful part.
Can you tell us?
The other most painful part is she still doesn't know why her husband was missing for 48 hours.
Yeah.
So let's get to the real basis of why everyone is so upset and everyone is so grief-stricken. It has absolutely nothing to do with the phone call. It has a lot to do with what we're talking about now.
Yeah. Can you tell us how they are today? I know that this is going to be a very tough day for them, for Maisha and her children.
This is a very tough day for them. Everyone is trying to get through this. Everyone is tired of the back and forth, of the TV cameras, and the only reason I came on this morning was to say that I do not appreciate someone lying on me. If you lie on me, I'm going to answer, because I'm not going to let you get away with it. That's the way I teach my boys, and that's the way I live my life. Don't lie on me. And also, we're hoping that very soon everything will calm down and we will watch a new birth, a new baby born to the Johnson family, a new baby girl. We're looking forward to that, and we will be there to support our heroes' family. The 5,000 role models is comprised of thousands of people, all races, creeds, and colors, strong men of honor, who will love those children and love his wife, love his aunt and uncle, love his brothers, love all the little nieces and nephews, and we will be there for them. He is our son. He's our hometown boy, and we're going to do everything we can to lift that family up. And we call out to America to join us as we lift up Sergeant LaDavid Johnson.
I know that you're trying to raise scholarship money for his children, and we want to give you an opportunity, or at least acknowledge that you've already raised, I think, $600,000 for his children. Here's the GoFundMe.
Yes.
Here's the GoFundMe page for his 2 children and the one on the way.
Yes, and because we want them to be comfortable and to be able to go to college and live a good life. And they won't have their father to provide for them. So the 5,000 role models is making that happen. And we are so proud of our hero, so proud. And before long, we're going to name a street after him in Miami Gardens. So when his kids pass down that street, they'll say, that was named for my daddy. He was a hero in the Army. He was a hero. He was a Green Beret. I can just see his little son, LaDavid Jr., now pointing that out to his friends.
Well, Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, we appreciate you coming on New Day with your perspective on all of this and helping us to remember LaDavid Johnson. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.